Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The tide dragged debris across the narrow cove, pushing driftwood and forgotten memories onto the shore with the insistent rhythm of the ocean. The early morning fog clung stubbornly to the jagged cliffs of Greyhaven Bay, obscuring the old lighthouse perched like a solitary sentinel. Heavy clouds hung low, promising rain yet unable to unleash it. Fishermen had just begun to prepare their boats for the day, but the peace of the sleepy town was about to be shattered. When it was found lying half submerged in the surf, the body was unrecognizable at first glance. The skin was pale, waxy, tinged a faint blue, and the eyes stared blankly into a world they would never see again. But the old dockhand, Mervyn, paused his morning ritual to take a closer look. The man's clothing, worn leather jacket, faded jeans, and a peculiar silver ring on his right hand, triggered a flash of uneasy familiarity. The name that had been whispered through Greyhaven's cobwebbed alleys rose to the surface: Caleb Hargrove. Caleb Hargrove had become something of a ghost around town, not just because he lived a solitary life on the edge of the cliffs, but because he had been declared dead twice. Once, 5 years ago after a boating accident during a violent storm in the bay. Then again, 2 years later when his body was supposedly identified in a fire that consumed an abandoned cabin miles inland. Both deaths had been accepted by officials after forensic examinations and witness testimonies. His wife had moved away, the town had mourned, yet the whispers never stopped. Some insisted Caleb had disappeared on purpose, that the man had reinvented himself far from the creaking docks of Greyhaven. So what was Caleb Hargrove's body doing washed ashore, broken driftwood and salt-stained sand around him, as if he'd just been claimed by the sea once more? Detective Clara Marsh arrived swiftly after the call, stepping out of her battered cruiser. The rain finally began, cold droplets darting sideways in the stiff coastal breeze. She crouched beside the body, taking in the details before the coroner's arrival. The skin's icy hue contrasted sharply with a fresh, shallow wound on the man's temple. There was no water in the lungs, an oddity that hinted he had not drowned. Yet the sea had carried him here. The detective's mind sifted through the layers of the mystery. Who was this man, and how could he be dead twice already? Back at the precinct, Clara pulled up all the records she could find on Caleb Hargrove. The original boating incident had been thoroughly documented: a storm, a capsized sailboat, but no body ever recovered. Then, the second death certificate after the cabin fire, where investigators had identified charred remains by dental records and personal belongings. The dual official declarations made it impossible for Caleb to exist, yet here he was. Or had been, until Dawn reclaimed him. She arranged tests to confirm the identity from the body on the beach. Fingerprints, DNA, which all matched Caleb Hargrove without a doubt. There was no question, the man who washed ashore was him. Confounded, Clara considered alternative scenarios. Could someone have been impersonating Caleb for years? The DNA didn't lie. Or had he somehow faked death twice and lived under countless anonymous identities? The detective's gut told her there was more beneath the surface, something darker, buried deep in the past. Determined, Clara began to dig into Caleb's life before he vanished the first time. Greyhaven was a town full of secrets, and Caleb had been a reluctant keeper of one. She discovered he had been an investigative journalist, relentless in exposing corruption tied to the powerful fishing consortium that held the town in a chokehold. Caleb's last published article had named names, linked illegal dumping to environmental damage, and hinted at illicit money laundering. Perhaps his disappearances had been orchestrated, staged to silence him. But if so, who had benefited? And why now, after years? Clara's investigations led her to Caleb's old home, a weather-beaten cottage perched precariously on the cliffs. Inside, dust motes drifted lazily in the dim sunlight. She rifled through scattered papers, notebooks filled with half-finished stories, and a locked safe that resisted her attempts. A loose floorboard revealed a hidden compartment where she found a collection of tapes and photographs, documents of encounters, threats, and evidence pointing to the consortium's darkest dealings. One photo caught her eye. A group shot taken at a private dock, showing Caleb with several men in suits. Among them was a man she recognized from local government, a man named Robert Mallory, whose name surfaced repeatedly in Caleb's exposés. The picture was dated the day before Caleb's supposed boating death. Suddenly, the pieces began to shift. What if Caleb's first death wasn't an accident? Mallory had the means and the motive. Clara reached out to Caleb's estranged sister, Hannah, who had lived quietly across state lines but was shaken by the news. Over a grainy video call, Hannah recalled the last time she spoke to Caleb. "He was scared, Clara," Hannah said in a voice barely above a whisper. "He told me someone was watching him. He said the consortium was bigger than anyone realized. They'd go for anyone who got too close." "I'm trying to understand how this is possible," Clara admitted. "2 deaths, both official, but here he is. Can someone fake DNA? Create such convincing records?" Hannah paused. "He once said something odd. About finding a way to disappear without being dead. That maybe one day, he'd need a second chance at life. But it all sounded like paranoia back then." Clara couldn't shake the feeling that Caleb might not have been entirely truthful about his fears. Perhaps he was involved in something more complex. The coroner's report later returned with a chilling conclusion. Caleb's body, though severely decomposed, showed no signs of water in the lungs or typical drowning causes. The trauma to his temple was recent, abrupt. Toxicology revealed traces of a rare synthetic compound no one in Greyhaven business or medical circles had encountered, something that induced a death-like coma, mimicking all physical signs of death. Some kind of poison? Or a drug? The coroner mentioned experimental compounds tested clandestinely in elite pharmaceutical labs. Not legally available but heavy in conspiracy theories about cold cases and disappearances. Clara's mind raced. Caleb had disappeared, declared dead twice, both times under conditions that could have involved this rare compound. Maybe he had been drugged into a suspended state that was mistaken for death. But who had administered this? And why? Her investigation took a darker turn when she returned to the docks late one evening, poring over the fishing logs and security camera footage. Sifting through grainy images, she spotted a figure luring someone onto a boat at night. Indistinct, but the posture, the jacket's influence, it had to be Caleb. The boat had left quietly and returned after hours, but there was something else. Someone else on board. Clara tracked down Timby, an elderly fisherman who had known Caleb well. Timby described a night he saw a suspicious exchange between the consortium's enforcers and men he didn't recognize, all under the fog's cloak. Caleb was onto something big, Timby said, voice rough with age and worry. He told me the fish weren't the only things being dumped in the water. Money, secrets, and maybe worse. As the days passed, Clara unraveled a tangled web of corporate greed, political corruption, and cold-blooded murder. The consortium hadn't just wanted Caleb gone. They had to erase him, twice, to cover their tracks forever. But Caleb had fought back, engineering a terrifying plan using the synthetic compound to fake his death. The first time, the body never found. In truth, Caleb was laid low in a hidden bunker, slowly recovering while he gathered proof. The second time, the charred remains had been staged by him with the help of a few trusted allies. His disappearance was a masterpiece of illusion. Then why had he resurfaced dead on the shore? Clara's breakthrough came when she discovered Caleb's last message, a hidden audio file on a discarded memory drive. His voice was weak but defiant. He spoke of exposing the consortium once and for all, of a final act, designed to bring clean water and truth back to Greyhaven. He warned whoever found him to beware the powerful men burying secrets beneath the waves, and to finish what he started. The tides of justice had claimed Caleb physically this time, but his message was alive. Clara knew the fight was far from over. She convened a covert task force, recruiting citizens loyal to Caleb's cause and ready to stand against the Shadow Consortium. Using the stolen documents, photographs, and Caleb's recordings, they worked to unravel years of lies. Intimidation, bribes, threats, and attempts on Clara's own life tried to halt the push for clarity. Then one night, as a brutal storm lashed the coast, Clara confronted Robert Mallory at the lighthouse. Lightning traced the silhouette of the powerful man, who laughed coldly. "You think his death matters? Caleb's a ghost now. A martyr for fools and dreamers." Clara leveled her gaze. "He's more than that. He's the truth you tried to drown." Before Mallory could respond, sirens split the storm's roar. Backup arrived, securing Mallory and his cohorts on charges of corruption, conspiracy, and attempted murder. The consortium crumbled like driftwood breaking against relentless waves. Greyhaven's sea, once murky with secrets, grew clear in the dawn light. Clara stood at the shore days later, the place where Caleb had washed up, feeling the cold Atlantic breeze brush her face. She held tightly to the silver ring she found on his finger, now a symbol of resilience and raw truth. In the rhythm of waves, she heard a promise. That the dead can speak, not just twice, but forever. If you listen. For more stories, like and subscribe.